and welcome to Forever Great in Conversation episode 9. I'm absolutely delighted to have you all with us today, and thank you so much for downloading the podcasts of previous episodes and also for watching Forever Great in Conversation via the YouTube channel. I have thoroughly appreciated reading your comments and for seeing you part of these conversations since February. Excited. Excited is probably a bit of an understatement to have someone who I know I admire dearly, and I know many other people do. We have got Sir Tom Hunter, our very own Scot, Sir Tom Hunter, with us today. Sir Tom, how are you?
I'm good, Frank. We're getting through this. There's some light at the end of the tunnel, so I'm looking forward to being at the end of that tunnel. That's for sure.
like a lot of us. How has the let's kick off, Sir Tom, with the tunnel we've been in. How's that been for you since March? How have you managed to get through?
Yeah, so I think like many others, the suddenness of the lockup, as I call it, not the lockdown, the lockup, the suddenness of that was quite dramatic, quite scary. I mean, none of us, and I mean this, there's probably nobody in the world that has been through what we're all living through right now. So it was very different. You know, my diary was sorted for every hour of every day, and I knew what I was doing kind of 3 or 4 months ahead, and very organised, and I liked it that way. And then to suddenly go, wow, so everything's cancelled. Wow, that's different. But, you know, I mean, I guess most entrepreneurs, we just say, right, this is what we're faced with, right? So what we're going to do. No point moaning about it. Nobody's going to listen anyway. And I've got a brilliant team who I've worked with for a long time. And we just sat down and said, right, how are we going to work it? How's working from home? Has everybody got the tech? Has everybody got the support they need? And to be honest, everybody just got on with it. Scary at the beginning, Frank, and then you adapt, and then you think, right, what are the opportunities? And then, but definitely looking forward to coming out the other end.
Yeah, me too, and I'm sure everyone that's watching this or listening to this is thinking the same. Is there anything, Tom, that you'll keep from this since March? I mean, what's that, nearly kind of 9 months? Is there anything that you'll, when we get out this tunnel, that you will retain as kind of a new best practice for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a pretty crazy schedule of, you know, I mean, I would fly to New York for one dinner meeting because it was so important, and that was it. But I think I have an appreciation now of who is important. You know, the frontline workers, obviously the NHS, but the people who clean the place, keep the place going, the people who keep the supermarket stocked. You know, so I have a real appreciation of who's important and what is important. And I tell you what, I'm not flying to New York for dinner anymore.
No. And has technology been something, Tom, that you've quite quickly adapted to, or did it take you a bit of time to get used to your Zooms, your Teams, or was that something you were fairly familiar with before?
No, I'd never heard of Zoom. In my day, it was called a video conference. It's great marketing by Zoom and Microsoft Teams. But yeah, once you get on it, Frank, it doesn't replace the really important face-to-face meetings. Nothing replaces that. But I tell you what, it replaces a lot of the bullshit meetings.
And the stuff and all the commuting to these meetings, isn't it? It's the time that
it's been, I think it's been, you've got to learn from this. And one of the things I've learned is that, you know, a lot of the meetings we used to have just weren't that important.
Yeah. And it's made you realise that.
Yeah.
So I also want to take this opportunity, Tom, as well, to say thank you very much, because Forever Great in Conversation is now happening at home. I'm set up at home, but the studio is actually in Marathon House, and your team kindly allowed me to use what was the old sports division store or set up shop as the studio for Forever Grey, and I would have loved us to have the conversation in there, because I know that space means a lot to you. Just briefly talking about your time at sports division, how do you think you'd have dealt with being if sports division was going through, or if you were still with sports division now, going through this open, closed? I get circumstances have changed. You would have online sales by then, but how do you think you'd have dealt with that as a leader?
Yeah, it's actually, Frank, just coming up to 25 years, November the 25th, as 25 years that we took control of Olympus, and which is quite a thing. I mean, and remember, even when I sold Sports Division, which was 98, there was no e-commerce. Yeah. my kids don't believe it, but there wasn't. But how would I have coped? I think I'd be very, very frustrated in that someone else is in charge of my destiny.
Yeah.
You know, and I know it's hard for government, but some of the decisions that have been made are illogical, and we will pay the price for it further down the line. The unintended consequences of lockdown, Frank, the untreated and undiagnosed cancer will kill more people in the years to come than COVID. And if anybody's listening today, just if you get anything at all, just go and see about it. Don't think, I don't want to bother the NHS. Just get it seen to, you know. And I would have been very frustrated, yes.
Yeah. And do you think that's the... I mean, I know you've kept that kind of, I don't know, passion, the right word, Tom, in terms of retail, but retail's been something you have continued to be interested in. Do you see the word in the street, or the feeling in the street, in terms of the long-term impact for retail? What's your gut feeling for the future of retail in the UK?
Yes, I mean, we got out, we made an investment decision about 5-6 years ago to get out of bricks and mortar retailing altogether, which was a big thing for me, because that's where I came from, that's what I know. And we invested in e-commerce, and that can look clever now, but I tell you what, I'd rather be lucky than clever, and we've been very lucky. So I think what's happened, and people closer to it than me have said that these trends in retail of digitization were happening anyway. I totally agree with that. And all that's happened is trends that were there have been really condensed, and some clever person said 5 years digitization happened in 5 weeks of the lockdown. So, yeah. Do I think the high street is finished? No, I don't. But I think, like anything else, it needs to change. And I think it will change, because landlords are taking the pain right now, along with the retailers. You know, there was a time where landlords didn't feel the pain, they just passed it on to retailers. So they are in it together now with the retailers. And in my opinion, what needs to happen is rents need to get to a place where new entrepreneurs can enter the high street.
Yeah.
They can try things because it's easy in, it's easy out. If they fail, Frank, they fail cheap. You've heard me say all this, and they fail quick, and they try something else. And the high street for many years was just a difficult place to get into. I mean, when I first started, I had to sign a 25-year personal guaranteed lease. But now, new entrepreneurs will be able to come in because it'll be cheaper, it'll be easier, and they will try new things. We need to introduce more homes to the high street. We need to create a new environment. And who will create these environments? Entrepreneurs. 100%. And we need to encourage that. So local authorities, landlords, entrepreneurs need to come together and try new things in our high streets. And there will be there'll be something new there. Of course there will. And it will be reinvention. So
reinvention, and you said something at the offsets of talking about the opportunities, and these times, difficult times, do create opportunities. Do you feel one of the opportunities that will come from this is potentially that fairness for entrepreneurs, I should say, to get a crack at the whip at the high street, because there is more negotiation available, there's supply in terms of there's empty gaps. Do you see that being an opportunity for the entrepreneurial activity out there?
I think, Frank, not just in the high street, we have been saying to government and to everybody who will listen that this is the time for the entrepreneur. Okay. Why is that? Is that because it's a time of great change, and it's entrepreneurs who can deal with the change quicker because they're more agile, they've got an entrepreneurial mindset, they're more agile than the big companies, and entrepreneurs will see the opportunities, will be able to act upon them. And like through Scottish Edge, which, as you know, we're the founder of, we are seeing a bigger demand for entrepreneurs coming and looking for money and mentorship than ever before. And this is the time to get behind entrepreneurs, because this is the time for entrepreneurs to shine. And if Scotland is going to come out of this pandemic stronger, it will be entrepreneurial led. Which
I absolutely love. What a great sentiment and thought to share. So Tom, now you do a lot in terms of the entrepreneurial movement. You quite rightly said the founders of the Scottish Edge. You support the West Coast Accelerate, which is based in Marathon House in Ayrshire. You also recently were part of the Startup Summit, which I know you're passionate about as well. What is it, and I know you're an entrepreneur, but what is it about entrepreneurs now and of the future that really excites you? Because you're a bit, I kind of, that's what I love about you. You excite me around your passion for entrepreneurs. What is it? What is it about their characteristics that give you that spark?
Well, I absolutely believe that entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of our economy. It's not the big, huge companies that are going to create the jobs of the future. You'll have heard me say it many times, and this has definitely been a trend that will be turbocharged, is that 100% of the new jobs in the next 5 years will be created by small entrepreneurial companies. And what do small entrepreneurial companies need? They need cash. And I tell you what, this is something I've learned over 20, 25 years of doing this, is they need mentorship. And the peer-to-peer learning, the peer-to-peer support is so important. And that's why we do things like Scale Up Scotland, the West Coast Accelerator, Scottish Edge, because every entrepreneur who comes to us thinks the only thing they need is cash, Frank.
Yeah, true.
And they're all wrong. So who better than to learn from another entrepreneur? That's such a powerful peer-to-peer learning and support mechanism, because let's face it, it's a very lonely thing to start your own business. You know it, I know it. Sometimes you think you're the only person in the world that's ever faced the challenge you're facing today. But I tell you what, when you can have face-to-face or Zoom-to-Zoom just now, just to say, well, I faced that last week and here's what I did. Absolutely. That's such an important support. And you really feel as if, wow, someone else has been through this. And that is why entrepreneurs will lead us out of this, and therefore we need to support them.
When you were growing up in New Cumnock, Tom, that famous mining town.
I'm glad you got New Cumnock right. Everybody says Cumnock, Frank, but I know you know because I know your dad.
New Cumnock, my grandma's from New Cumnock as well. It's got a great outdoor swimming pool up there as well. Let's just give them a boost.
Oh man, when Prince Charles's team came to me and said, Tom, do you think we should open the outdoor swimming pool? Because I grew up in that pool. And I went, oh, you're kidding. And they said, the boss, Prince Charles, was really keen. And I said, right, let me find out what the community want. And the community went, yes. And I was up there only last week, Frank, and an old pal of mine, the husband and wife team actually run the pool, Andy Clapperton, and they said it has been one of the best things that's ever happened up there. It's unbelievable.
Excellent.
Anyway, we reminisce, Frank.
Yeah, but it's an important place. I've been to it a few times. It's great fun. When you were a young fella, a young boy growing up there, Tom, did you ever have that intrinsic feeling or internal feeling that you thought, I know you admired your dad and your dad was such an inspiration to you, being that village grocer, but did you ever feel that you were going to have, did you foresee the success that you've had? Obviously it was built up by hard work, but did you have that vision that you were going to build a company?
No, it's very hard. I think Steve Jobs says it best, Frank, when he says you can connect the dots only looking back, not looking forward. And I didn't quite understand what he meant by that. It's a great book, you know, I'm a great reader, so that's in Walter Isaacson's biography of Jobs. And I understand what he means there. So, you know, when you're growing up, you just think, listen, I always wanted to be my own boss because I saw my dad, but I didn't know what it was going to be, Frank. No, and it wasn't till many years later that you even thought you'd have a chance, you know. But I knew I wasn't going to stay in New Cumnock. I knew, you know, the boundaries there were too small for me. But I had no idea. No idea.
And when you think of, and I know you're, again, passionate, you do a lot for education and things, when you speak to young people that are out there and they say to you, Tom, and I'm sure you've been asked this before, what would you say, if you were setting up a company now, what would you set up? I think there's a lot of younger people thinking, where's the area to invest right now? So is it retail? Is it anything to do with the climate? Is it recycling? Is it energy? Where would you say, in your own opinion, that there's some hot areas potentially of trends where entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs should be looking at as areas to try?
The great thing that's happened, Frank, is Scotland's geography used to be and could have been looked at as a disadvantage. You know, we were a bit away from the hub of London, let's just say. And, you know, people said to me when I said I was going to build a distribution centre for the UK and Dundonald that I must be mad. But we did it. But many people saw Scotland's geography as a disadvantage. Because of the internet, geography is not an issue anymore. You can set up your business in your bedroom and the world is your customer. And therefore, Scotland's geography now is a huge advantage because we live in such an amazing place. And I really do think we've been able to attract world-class talent to Scotland because people can live anywhere now. That's another benefit of the pandemic because people have worked out, right, I don't need to be stuck in London. I don't need to be doing a commute, an hour in the tube every morning, an hour in the tube every night. I can live in this wonderful place called Scotland and actually it works.
It works.
So I can't really guide people into what sort of business, but I know the business will be digital. Every single business now is digital. And there's many better entrepreneurs than me who are going to come up with the next thing. And if you know of any, let me know and I'll back them.
I will. I'll send them to the Scottish Edge and I'll get them into the West Coast Accelerate. So I'm a massive advocate of those programs, so I'll do my bit. When you talk, again, it's another interesting point there, Tom, that you raise around people working from home. And if you look at Glasgow, Edinburgh, London, even New York, which you mentioned at the start, where do you think, what's your thoughts on around, do you think we will, or that community will ever be back to where it was before COVID? Do you think people will return to the office and go back to old times?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are certain things, and I think if I look at my team, and my team have been together a long time, you know, goodness, Julianne's been with me 30 years. She keeps telling me that. I think she wants a bonus, Frank, or something.
It's a long time. It's a long time.
Oh, it's a long time for me to put up with her, I'll tell you. And so my team, and I've been asking them, what do they think about working from home? And there are very many mixed things. And I've just said to them, I don't think we'll be going back to 9 to 5 in the office. We have worked out that it suits some people and it doesn't suit others. You know, we've got quite a few mums who've enjoyed taking their kids to school and picking them up and having that flexibility, but the work still gets done. Yeah. So from my team's point of view, I'm saying to them, whatever works for you works for me.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll be going back to 9 to 5. There are certain things, though, that don't work over Zoom. And, you know, one of the things that I'm struggling with is the actual creativity 100%. Of, if I'm looking to invest in someone, Frank, I can't do it over Zoom because I'm all about the person. And I cannot suss you out over Zoom. I can't look you in the eye, Frank, and see if you've got a chance at it. I can definitely tell it to you, Frank, I just can't do it. So I need to get to know someone, and can be a long process, but it's face to face. So there are some things that need to happen face to face. There are some things that don't need to happen face to face. So I think, you know, it's going to be this terrible word, blended.
Blended. That's hybrid.
I don't know if I like that word, but so I don't think it's going to all be in Zoom, and I don't think it's all going to be in the office. I think it's down to the entrepreneurs and the leaders to work out, and my team will choose what works for them.
Yeah.
I miss the face to face. I do, Frank. So yeah.
I think I totally agree around the creativity. I mean, that's what Forever Great's all about, going into organisations and helping them become creative. So rather than being stale and going with the way things have always been, going in and doing, but I suppose bringing energy and creativity to the forefront, and you just can't do that via Zoom. I was lecturing, I do some lecturing at UWS and lecturing the students over Zoom. Yeah, you can bring energy, and I try and bring that Frank spark to make them feel inspired, but it's not the same as being in the classroom.
No,
it's just not the same. So in terms of the another thing I want to touch with you, Tom, is obviously the Hunter Foundation, incredible work that you do, and I know there's been so many people when I shared that it was yourself I was speaking to, wanted to say thank you so much to yourself and Marion and the Kilt Walk team for all that you've done for the Scottish charity sector, which has, like everyone, has been absolutely impacted beyond belief by COVID. When did you realise with the Kilt Walk team, Tom, that you had to do something virtual rather than what you could have done? You could have said, we'll hold off 2020 and we'll come back with a bang in 2021, because it is a big community day out for someone that's participated in them all, either through my work with Centre Stage or actually partaking in the walk itself. It's a big event for Scotland, isn't it?
So the great thing about the Kilt Walk team, Frank, is they are close to the customer being the charities. So we get really instant feedback as to what's happening on the ground, what's actually happening. And what actually happened was it was the perfect storm. The demand for the charitable service, and remember, Kilt Walk helps thousands of different charities, and the demand for every single charity went through the roof, and their ability to fundraise disappeared. It was the perfect storm. So we sat and said, right, what can we do here? And I spoke to Jason Leach and I said, I'm not going to hold you to it, but what's your gut feel? He said, Tom, it's not going to happen this year. Okay. And I said, right, good, I can make decisions now. So let's not kid on, come up with a different thing. And we just said, look, what we need to do is Kilt Walk is a platform for any and every charity to raise money for what they care about, Frank. That's what it is. And it's the Hunter Foundation's way of helping charities we have never heard of, we never would have heard of, but listen, if it's good enough for them and they care about it, good on them, and it's good enough for me. And that's why we just said, right, we've got to do something virtual. And I tell you what, I mean, it just worked, and we had to learn. You know, we had to learn by doing. You'll hear me say that all the time. We learn by doing, right? Made a few mistakes, right? Don't do it that way, do it this way. And then we just went and we said, the most important thing is that we give charities a platform from which to raise money from. And, you know, this year's Kilt Walk, even though we didn't get together, we still helped over 900 different charities this year. And I'm very proud of the team, and I'm very proud of being able to help.
Well, listen, honestly, thank you, Tom, on behalf of the charities that I'm lucky to support, and the charities that we've not met across Scotland that is gained from that really generous support. Thank you so much. I want to talk very quickly before we go into the final 3 questions, because time just goes so fast. You're obviously someone that I would love to spend the whole day chatting to.
No chance, Frank. I'm a celebrity to watch tonight.
Exactly. And you've got to take Frank, that dog, a good walk.
I have. Named after you, Frank.
What a privilege, what an honour. What I wanted to say around that Kilt Walk piece, and you spoke, so Tommy, I think you always speak well, but you spoke to Jackie Bird and Children in Need at the weekend, and you mentioned your dad a bit, and I paraphrase here, so please correct me. It was something around, your dad mentioned this thing about charity or kindness is about giving that person, helping someone out who you may never meet. Help me out, correct me on that, because I know I didn't get it right.
So, I mean, we're also a big supporter of Children in Need as well, because, you know, listen, and people say, well, why'd you do it, Tom? I said, well, and it's very hard to know why, Frank. It really is, and I don't have an adequate answer for it, but I love Scotland. And Scotland's a place where we hate injustice, Frank. We really do hate injustice. And if there's somebody, you know, that sticks in your craw. Yeah. It's a place where we look out for each other. And if you can do someone a good turn, you should do it. And my dad's phrase was, the definition of true kindness is to help someone you'll never meet. And,
wow,
you know, never a truer word's been said. And that was a Children in Need thing. But I really do believe it. It's what sets Scots apart. You know, if you can do someone a good turn,
do it. I love it. It's so powerful. And thanks for sharing that. Tom, we've got to the stage where I ask my guests 3 questions every episode. So we'll start with question number 1. Where is your favourite place to visit in Scotland? When we're allowed and we're not in lockdown. So maybe not right now, but where's the place you love to go to see in Scotland?
So before lockdown, Frank, Loch Lomond and the wild side of Loch Lomond was really world-class and special. But during this pandemic, we actually went, and we were allowed, we went up to Braemar, and with a group of pals from Newcombe.
Wow.
You would know some of them.
Is that near Balmoral, Sir Tom? Is that
Aye, that's it. And I did my very first Munro. Frank the dog came, Marion came, and some pals from Newcombe. Now, and it was Buff Hasty from Newcombe who has did about 260 Munros. This was my first. And if he'd told me the night before when we were having dinner I was going to be 9 hours in the hill, I would have lapped him one. But being up and walking with my pals for Newcombe, being on the hill and just being up in that Scottish beauty, it's magical. There's nowhere like it in the world. So, and Rab Wilson, who you know from Newcombe, recited Royal Loch Naga at the very peak.
At the top.
And Lord Byron, and I had a tear in my eye.
Oh, that sounds so special, and a memory you'll retain forever. It puts my climbing goat fell a few weeks ago to shame.
No, but now I've got the bug, so we're going to do it. But yeah, we just need to see where we're allowed to do. And
no, exactly.
Nicola's going to tell us later on today what's happening. So
we'll wait and see what happens there. So it's Loch Lomond, and then you recently climbed a Munro in the beautiful Braemar. So we need to check them out when safe to do so. Who's the person, Tom, that inspires you the most, either right now or has inspired you previously?
Yeah, obviously my first answer is my dad, but thinking about it, Andrew Carnegie, and understanding, getting to know his story, you know, from being, whenever I speak in America about Carnegie, they think he's American, and I put them straight. So, you know, being Scottish, leaving Scotland in abject poverty, becoming the richest man in the world, but actually working out what to do with his money while he's still alive. It's a huge effect on me. And I think now Marion and I are signatories to the Giving Pledge, invited by Bill and Melinda Gates and Warren Buffett. And I think Bill and Melinda Gates now, just the stuff they're doing is just incredible. So yeah, huge respect.
And the final one is quote. So we all like a good quote, and I'm lucky that I've been in Marathon House a few times and worked in it for a few years, Tom, and have seen many of the quotes that's inspired me walking up the stairs, from Barack Obama to Oprah Winfrey to Mr. Carnegie himself. What's the quote? It could be one of them, but what's the quote that will always stick out for you and add a bit of perspective or give you that boost when we all need it every now and again?
Well, I've got an old pal called Tony Gallagher. Sir Tony Gallagher, he was knighted in the recent
congratulations to him.
Queen's honours, and I didn't have a very good last crisis, Frank, and it's well documented, lost a great deal of money, learned a lot, and so Tony's piece of advice, and he's a real character, he said, Tom, put some hay in the barn and don't set it on fire this time.
I love it. That's a new one.
And I often think about that. So that's one from Tony Gallagher.
Put some hay in the barn and don't set it on fire this time. I'm sure that's pertinent, and that works for a lot of people right now.
Yeah.
Before we're at, Tom, and I say my sincere thank you for you spending a bit of time with me today. We need to just very quickly talk about Scotland and our performance last week, don't we?
Well, we do, because 1998 was etched in my memory for a few things. I sold Sports Division.
Yeah.
But I also was in Paris to see Scotland play Brazil in the World Cup. And I managed to take my youngest son then, who's going to be 30, wow, in a week's time, to see a Scotland game in the World Cup. So we are off to Wembley, if we're allowed. And I just think, and you know, you'll remember Willie Hawkey and myself enabled the SFA to buy Hampden. And I mean, I'm not a great, I don't know much about sport, but what I do know and why I did that was because I know the difference it means to our country, Scotland. And the lift from that and the celebrations on social media were just inspirational. And, you know, whatever we do against England and the rest of it, the fact that we are back up there, exactly. Steve Clarke has shown real leadership, and he's instilled a belief in his players that they deserve to be there. They believe again, and I absolutely love it. And I'll be taking all my family to see us at Wembley. And let's hope we Scotch. That's a good Scottish word for it. Scotch English.
Well, listen, fingers crossed. And I think it's so right for you to talk about Steve, the manager, because we always talk
from Saltcoats as well.
When we get a chance to talk around leadership, that transpires into sport as well. That whole belief, key characteristics of strong mindsets, it's relevant across all sectors, isn't it?
It sure is. So yeah, so well, good luck, Frank, and everything you're doing. Keep doing it. And let's hope we see each other face to face very soon.
So Tom Hunter, thank you so much. We appreciate all that you do for the business community and for the charities, the Hunter Foundation, all your philanthropic, if I can say it. It's a tough one, that isn't it?
Philanthropic.
Yeah, philanthropic. Here's a new one. That's a good Scottish word. Philanthropic. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thanks for your time, and I wish you and Marion and all your family, we're a bit early, but a very, very pleasant Christmas, and I look forward to see you sometime in the future. Thank you very much.
Take care.